Hey there everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's so nice to be able to talk to you again. This video today I'm calling March Madness, and I'm going to talk with you a little bit about why it has nothing to do with sports. I'm not a sports girl, but I thought it was an appropriate title for the video because of all the things that have been going on with my planners in the last month or so. So let me just start by saying this. One of the things that I realized as I was preparing to record this video is that this seems to be, I hesitate to use this word, this seems to be almost a pandemic across the entire planner community. I've seen a lot of people posting in the last month where they've reached a stage where they're wanting to change their planner or do something different, or they're unhappy with their planner or whatever. So the comforting thing to me is I'm not alone. But it made me stop and think, what is going on and why is it that we have that? So I have some notes that I took last night while I was watching a movie with my husband. And I just thought I would share a little bit of my thoughts with you, and at the same time share with you some of what I have been doing in my month of madness in March, and kind of where I landed. So the last time I talked to you guys, I can't remember, but I think I was still in my personal rings. I may have been talking about moving to an A6 rings, but still in rings. And I was just chugging along, and like most of you, started out the new year, this is going to be what I'm going to use, and I'm going to stay here in this planner. I'm happy in rings. I'm not going anywhere. And yeah, that worked great for about 2 months. And then something happened, and I don't know, and maybe you can help me think about, I'm trying to figure out why. Is it winter doldrums? Is it boredom? Is it... I don't know, everything is working smoothly, so therefore I must, turn the apple cart upside down and do something completely different. That's the part that I can't figure out, and I feel like if I could nail what the impetus is, then maybe I could stop this cycle from happening over and over again. Because one of the things I noticed as I was thinking about recording this video is I looked back at the last few years, and that's one of the beauties of having a YouTube channel, is you can see that. And also Instagram and other social media. I could see where every year in March, for some reason, I would have some sort of planner crisis and I would move to something different. Now, I used to think that was because it was the end of my kids' school year and things were getting busy, and that final push, March, April, and May, to get to the end of the school year, they were involved in theater, so it was always spring theater programs and dance recitals and all that kind of stuff. But the girls are away at college, and it's just me and my husband at home and the critters, and they don't have social calendars, and we barely have social calendars. So then I started thinking, okay, well, what's going on? Because I can't blame it on the kids anymore. It has to be something else. And that's when I started thinking about the winter doldrums. Is it just because the holidays are over and it's those cold, dark months and you're kind of hibernating, whether you're doing it literally or figuratively, and then things start to bud out and, wake up and the time change comes, and, is that what triggers the need for something different? Is it that I'm feeling stagnant and feeling like I need something different, or what? So that's my current theory. I'd be interested to know what you guys think, if you think that is true for you as well, because I'm really curious to know. So is it that I can't blame the planner launches, because we just escaped the end of the year, new year planner launches, and we haven't hit the academic year planner launches. That's coming. That's another hurdle we'll talk about later. So I couldn't blame that. So the only thing I could figure is it's this winter doldrum thing. But anyway, regardless, what I found at the end of February was I was starting to cast around looking for something new. And that's when I thought, well, it's this personal planner. It's too big. It's too heavy. It's too bulky. I'll move into an A6 planner and I'll do that. And that'll give me a smaller footprint, a little bit lighter carry, sticking in rings, same basic setup. And that lasted about as long as it took for me to set it up, which wasn't very long. And then I was like, nah, I don't think that's what I want. And around the same time, and I think the other thing was I felt like I wasn't utilizing the planner like I could or should. Like the dailies weren't full because there isn't that much going on. You know, it's bulky, blah, 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 blah. So I started thinking, do I really need dailies? And part of me, the logical part of me said, yes, you do, because that's how you focus. And even if you don't fill the page, you still need that, and that's what works for you. And then the other non-logical part of me was like, oh, but there's always so many other planner options, and maybe you should look at something else. And so then I thought, well, I don't want to spend money. Ha ha, we'll get there. You know this is going somewhere, right? I don't want to spend money. I'll just use my Hobonichi cousin that I bought. But then I said, no, absolutely not. The Hobonichi cousin is purely for scrapbooking type of thing. I don't want to adulterate it with planning, because then I will have this conflict in my brain. Do I scrapbook in there or do I not? You know what? I want to keep that purely for memory keeping and scrapbooking. And I've given myself permission to not be like current to the day in there. And I feel like if I started planning in there, I would have that pressure to keep it current. So the cousin was a no-no. The rings were not bringing me joy. And I was looking at Instagram, which is the beginning of the downfall for me. It always is. I start looking at what other people are doing, and I start thinking about whether or not that could work for me. And hey, that looks pretty cool. And it's funny because Carrie was using a Commit 30 planner. And then all of a sudden, I saw them all over Instagram. Everybody was getting one. And I kind of rolled my eyes and I thought, I'm not falling for that. I'm not going to get one of those. They look great and they look cool, but I know how that would work for me. And then I don't know what happened, but I bought one. Yeah. So and you can see, I mean, I set it up. I put tabs in here. I put a pin loop on it. I had a lot of fun setting it up. I put pictures. I backplanned. I put my Cocoa Daisy dashboards in here, which, by the way, they fit almost perfectly. Minimal trimming if you are a Cocoa Daisy person and you're using one of these. I backplanned all the way back to the beginning of January. I put pictures in here. I had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And I actually used it for most of the end of February. I think that's when I started using it, was like the last 2 weeks of February. Maybe I used it for most of February as I'm looking at it now. Here's the week before Valentine's Day. I think that's when I kind of officially started using it. I did not use the time on the side because most of my day is a work day and I don't need that. And so what I did was I divided it into 3. So the top section was appointments, the middle section was to-dos, and this section was for notes. And then down here at the bottom, that kind of evolved. But most of it was what I was reading, what I was watching on TV or listening to as a podcast or an Audible book, and what we had for dinner. And I enjoyed it. I mean, I did a lot in here for several weeks. And then it just kind of evaporated. Like, look at this. Look how busy this week was. And then I just kind of fell out of love with it. I think I used it for 3 weeks solid. And then I was just like, yeah, no, I'm not interested anymore. And it was literally long enough to set it up, use it for a few weeks, and then I realized that I didn't have anywhere for dailies. I didn't have a lot of room in the back for notes. There is a generous amount of note paper, but again, I fall for that. I must save those because I have to make them last a whole year, so I may not have them at the end of the year, and so I put this on the shelf. And so at the same time that was happening, I made a comment in a Facebook group about gosh, it sure would be nice if I could find a Sterling ink planner, the half-year Sterling ink planner. And it was kind of almost like I didn't expect anything to come of it because I knew they were sold out. But one of my very sweet and kind YouTube followers, thank you very much, reached out to me and said, I have one. Would you like to buy mine? I'm not using it, and I would be happy to send it to you. And I debated for a couple of days on whether or not I wanted to go down that rabbit trail. And then I thought, oh, what the heck? I'm so out of sorts plannering anyway. Why not just have fun? And so I said, sure, send it to me. So here it is. Sorry, that was my pen hitting the table. Here it is. And again, I had a lot of fun setting it up. I had a cover already that I had gotten. I don't remember where this cover, Lauren Phelps design cover that I had gotten when I was using a B6 Stalogy. It fit perfect. And it has pockets, which I really liked. And I added some stickers and post-it notes and pockets. And I set up the monthly. I put pictures in. I set up the monthlies. I back planned, very basic back planning, which was pretty easy because I had just done it in the Commit 30 planner. And I was actually on a spring break trip with my daughter. When I did this, this was my entertainment in the evenings, setting this up. And I used the same type of setup where I divided my days into 3. Actually, I divided it into 4. So this was appointments, this was to-dos, this was notes, and then down here was the same kind of thing. What I ate, what I listened to, what I read. I put pictures in there. Love that little Canon IV printer. And it was great. While I was setting it up, it was pretty. And when I got home and back to reality and, started planning my normal work week of my normal days, I was like, I don't really have anywhere to put my daily tasks. And I didn't like just having that column. And I said, well, you doofus, you have all this in the back, all these note pages. See, I even made for future planning in the back. And so I decided, okay, you should use this. So I made it 3 days. And I said, no, this is why I quit using a bullet journal. Because I don't like this experience of writing in the back, writing in the bound book. I felt like I had to save pages. I don't know. It's a thing with my brain. So, I satisfied my curiosity. I gave myself something to do while I was on vacation for the week. The pros and cons of the two here before I go any more sideways on other things. This is an A5-esque. It's a little bit smaller, I think, than an A5. But for me, for portability, it was too big to just throw in my purse. If you carry a big, giant purse, it probably would be fine, but I don't. And I didn't like the fact that this doesn't have lines. That was a big thing that bugged me because I just felt like nothing lined up. Nothing was level, nothing was even. There was no place for me to put check boxes, and that bugged me. So that's the downside. This is B6, so it's much smaller, and I liked that part of it. Sorry, somebody keeps calling me, and I keep declining them. But the paper is nice. It's Tomoe River paper. But again, it's just that bound book thing where I fell into feeling like I had to have something that was archival, something that was Instagram worthy, something that was pretty versus functional. And so this week I had a serious talk with myself. Do you do that? Do you have serious talks with yourself? I kind of laid the law down, and I was like, okay, you know what works for you. Why are you being silly? And why are you hampering your productivity doing all of this other stuff? And yes, setting these planners up was fun and entertaining, but it's really not what works best for your brain, and you just need to get over yourself and get back on track. So back came Matilda. And so that's what I'm using again. And so last night, like I said, I wrote myself this whole long litany of the whole saga of the March Madness. And I wrote here on the page, it says, duh, why do I do this? And I called it planner ennui, which I'm not trying to use a fancy word just because, but to me that most accurately represents how I was feeling. It's just like this general discontent with my planner. And what I went to bed thinking about last night is that I just need to start powering through that, even though I have days where I'm just like, you know, I want to use something else. That looks so pretty. Look at what so-and-so did on Instagram, or maybe I should pull out a bullet journal, or maybe I should get a Hobonichi weeks, or whatever it is. I need to remember that those things don't work as well for me. They can work. I can make any planner work if I work hard enough at it. But I don't want to have to work hard to make my planner work. I want my planner to work for me with little to no effort on my part. So that's the secret for me, I think, is remembering that part of it. So how do you, if you are better at avoiding this whole malaise and distraction of other planners, how do you avoid it? I'm curious. I would love to hear in the comments below what you do if you are successful at avoiding having the planner hopping itis that I had for the last month. And if you're not, what sorts of things do you feel like set you off? What triggers you? Is it stress? Is it schedules? Is it weather changes? Is it the time of year, like the changing of the seasons, or what? I'd be very curious to know what you think it is. My suspicion for me is that it is seasonal. And I'm just looking for a creative outlet, and I need to figure out something other than buying and setting up planners as a creative outlet, like painting or crocheting or scrapbooking or walking, or I don't know, talking to my dog. I don't know. The funny part of this all is that when I started back into, and this was literally like 3 days ago that this happened, when I sat down and started back into this, which was just a matter of, you know, I decided I wasn't back planning. Everything else is in those books, and they're bound and they're archival and they're not going anywhere. It's there. And I just picked up for day one, Monday of this week, and started planning for the week in my rings. And what was interesting to me as I started to do that was all of a sudden, and this has happened to me before when I've gone out of rings and come back in, all of a sudden, all of these things just started flowing out of my brain, just like train of thought, just like a brain dump. Like people talk about doing a brain dump and just scribbling everything down. And none of those things were in these two books prior to that session that I did on Monday. And I thought, where did all that come from? And then I realized that I was holding on to that stuff in my brain because I didn't want to write it down in my bound books because it might not be worthy or important enough or whatever, or I might need that space for something else. And in my rings, I felt the freedom to do that. And that was when things really clicked for me, that this is where I need to be, because like I said, my planner is a tool to help me. It's not something that I should be working hard to use. I should just be able to open it up, go to a page, write down whatever it is, and move on, and not worry about whether it's pretty, whether it's going to be archival, whether it's going to be something I want to remember a year or 6 years or 10 years from now or whatever. It's just what's going to help me get through the day, the week, the month, the year, and get the things done that I need to get done and not forget. And for me, rings are the thing that helps. And I'll leave you with this, and I will post this I'll try to do a little picture of it to show you. But I posted this last year on Instagram for those of you that follow me. I don't know why it's blurry, but I will post it, put it right here so you can see. And I should have dated it. I wish I had. I'll have to go back and look at my Instagram feed to see when this was that I wrote this. But I wrote this note to myself, and I'm going to read it to you. And I laughed when I saw this last night as I was putting my notes for this video in my planner, because if I had read this in February, I probably would have never gone down the path of the 2 different bound books that are now going to sit on my shelf and gather dust. But it says at the top, things you need to remember. Number 1, rings work best with how your brain works and organizes things. Number 2, bound books look all appealing on social media, but they send you into a place that is more about aesthetics and less about function. Admire from afar, but don't go there. Gosh, I wish I had listened to myself. Number 3, you need and prefer a pre-printed page to allow you to get things out of your head and to make plans for the future. As in, don't buy or make a bullet journal. Number 4, all the pretty pens, including fountain pens, are nice, but you really don't need any more, and you really just use the same pens all the time anyway. We aren't even going to go there right now. I'm not going to talk about pen purchases. Stick to what works. Number 5, and the last one. Just because it looks good on social media does not mean you need to try it out. Stick to what you know works. You've tried most all of it anyway, and you always come back to the same thing. Yeah, should have listened to myself. And I think I posted this last year, but it might have been the year before. Anyway, so that was my March Madness. I've been round and round the mulberry bush for the last 6 weeks, and I'm right back where I started in January, and I'm going to try really hard to listen to what I wrote on this page and stay right where I am, using my personal size rings with my DIY fish inserts and all my pretty pages that I have, like these from Hey Planner Girl that are flowers and, you know, make me happy to look at. And yeah, so I have some ideas for some other content, planner related content to share with you on the tube, but I wanted to ask you, so this is my second question. Number 1 was about the planner ennui, and do you get it? How do you deal with it? And if you don't, what's the secret? My second question for you is, would you care, do you want to see planner flips? If I'm doing the same thing every month and I'm behaving myself and I'm a good girl and I'm sticking in Matilda, is it interesting to you to see? Because to me, it's the same thing month over month, and I feel like it would be boring for somebody else to look at what my planner looks like for March versus what my planner looks like for April, when it's the same thing other than different Cocoa Daisy pages, stickers and things like that. So let me know in the comments if that's something you care about, or if there are other things that you would like for me to talk about here, planner related. Maybe something I've mentioned in the past that you find interesting and you've been wishing that I would talk about it. And if nobody wants to see, then that's okay too. I won't be offended. I won't have my feelings hurt. This is not an ego trip for me. This has just been a fun exploration into sharing my love of my planners and paper crafting with people. So yeah, if it's run its course, that's okay too. Anyway, I hope you found this entertaining. I hope, if nothing else, and you've been in the middle of March Madness with your planner, that you feel like, hey, I'm not the only crazy person, because I can definitely tell you I've been there for the last 6 weeks for sure, and you're not alone. So hope this video finds you well. Thank you again for your comments, the ones that you've left in the past and the ones that I hope that you'll leave on this video. And if this has resonated with you and you think somebody else would care, please share the video and let other folks know, and leave me a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.